And here we are starting the Torah once again, Parshat Bereisheet. Definitely great week to resume this class. And I want to introduce you to two very good friends of mine that are in a band called Moshav, stemming from Moshav Modi'in in Israel, which was founded by Shlomo Carlebach in the 50s maybe. And these guys grew up there, have been playing music their whole life, moved to LA about 25 years ago when other friends of mine threw this world tour called the Wake Up Tour that actually came through Montreal, had a huge impact on me. It was one of those first moments where, to me, Jewish music could be cool. And it wasn't sort of my like Bubby's music. And they've been touring the world, not so much these days, but certainly for the last 20 to 30 years, and are really at the forefront of creating original Jewish music. They have certainly been to Montreal many times, and they happen to have a song called Bereisheet. So I thought that would be a nice song to hear. And let's have a listen. I think I could just do, did everyone see my screen? You guys see this? Moshav? Okay, do you hear?
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים, את השמיים ואת הארץ. בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים, את השמיים ואת הארץ. והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו, וחושך על פני תהום, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. ויאמר אלוהים יהי יום, ויהי יום. וירא אלוהים תהום כי טוב, וירא תהום כי טוב.
Okay, just a little taste of one of the oldest Jewish texts being done in a sort of modern contemporary way, and that's where they excel. So here we are, Parshat Bereisheet. Everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Bereisheet bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning is how do we often translate, of course, right? Bereisheet from the root word of Rosh, head. Bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. I actually really like Sefaria's translation, when God began to create heaven and earth. Very often we think of this sentence as the first thing God did, but Bereisheet can perhaps be its own context. It could be right. It could be Bereisheet, comma, bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu, and the land was depth of voidness. V'choshech al pnei tehom, and darkness on the face of vastness. Tehom is this idea of just emptiness, cavernous. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim, and literally the wind of God, right? Ruach, often translated as spirit. Again, Sefaria gets it right as far as I'm concerned. Or at least goes literal. The Ruach Elohim, the wind of God, merachefet, wafts al pnei hamayim, over the water. Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. So this is not the first time, I'm sure, for anyone tonight seeing these words or hearing them or knowing the story. Perhaps one of, perhaps the most classic Jewish text, frankly. And the layers of depthness, you could study these for years and years, and there's no shortage of commentary, discussion, discourse, arguments. Most notably, one argument says that the Torah shouldn't have started here. There's a famous argument. Rabbi Yitzchak, I think, in the Gemara says the Torah was really meant to start at HaChodesh Hazeh Tiyeh Lachem. The first commandment given to the Jews is not the first of the 10 commandments. It's actually the commandment to count the new month. And it's the first time that we're sort of assembled as a nation in terms of the Torah. And there's a school of thought that the Torah should have started there. Just like Rosh Hashanah should be in Nisan, it's the same school of thought. Rosh Hashanah should be in Nisan by Pesach. The Torah should start with that commandment, with that law, which is also by that story of Pesach. But of course, we know that the Torah does not start, or where we begin the Torah, because there's also a famous saying, the Torah has no beginning and no end. This is where we start the Torah. And no shortage of debate, for sure. Right? Evolution. There is no shortage of ideas that contradict each other or seemingly contradict each other. As far as I'm concerned, there's no contradiction, and perhaps we will touch on some of those concepts as we go through the story of creation. Just something that I also wanted to point out, something that I love, is Bereisheet. If you mix around the letters, you could spell the words Shirat Av, Song of the Father. So there's this Hasidic idea that even though it says Vayomer, that Hashem didn't really speak. It was more Hashem sang, or there was some type of Shira. And of course, the whole Torah is also known as a song. And Shirat Av, Song of Our Father. And Hashem says, let there be light, and there was light. Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. God sees the light is good. Vayavdel Elohim ben haor uven hachoshech. And he made a separation between light and darkness. Of course, right away we think of Havdalah when we say every Saturday evening as Shabbat dwindles away, right? Havdalah vayavdel ben or uven choshech. Vaikra Elohim la'or yom. God calls the light yom. We say day. V'lachoshech kara laila. And to the darkness kara laila. Vayihi erev, vayihi voker yom echad. And it was erev, it was nighttime, vayihi voker, and it was morning time, yom echad, day one, or a first day. Another famous commentary is, it should have said yom rishon, just like it says yom sheni, yom shlishi. Grammatically speaking, it should say yom rishon. And the idea that at this point, there is nothing else but Hashem, and angels, I think, get created on day 2, which is why it says Yom Echad, singular. Things are still singular. I think it's actually Rashi says that. Vayomer Elohim yehi rakia betoch hamayim. Let there be a depthness in the waters. Vihi mavdil ben mayim lemayim. That the waters may separate between water and water. Vayas, again, very, very complex language. We can't even begin to understand what that truly means. Again, the word mavdil, things are separating. Vayas Elohim et harakia vayavdel ben hamayim asher mitachat larakia. And God makes this rakia, this space, vayavdel ben hamayim, and makes a separation, ben hamayim asher mitachat larakia, from the waters that are under this rakia, uven hamayim asher me'al rakia, and the waters that are on top of this rakia, this expanse, vastness. Vayehi chen, and it was so. Vaikra Elohim larakia shamayim. So now Hashem gives a name to this rakia. He calls it shamayim, sky, heavens. Vayehi erev, vayehi voker, yom sheni, and it was night and day again, yom sheni. So again, often science says that it contradicts the Torah, right? This is things that we hear. How is it possible that the world was created in 7 days when we know very well things lasted millions of years and blah blah blah? I personally don't subscribe to the idea that Yom Echad and Yom Sheni is the same 24-hour cycle that we know today. And who knows what was happening? We can't begin to. These are all things that we've interpreted to try to make sense to us. But you ask me, Yom Echad, Yom Sheni just indicates a first cycle and a second cycle. We have no idea how long in terms of, current time that was. Any questions or statements from anyone at this point? Shaya? Questions? No? Okay. Right, so Hashem calls the rakia shamayim. And Yom Sheni. Vayomer Elohim yikavu hamayim mitachat hashamayim el makom echad v'tera'eh hayabasha vayhi chen. So Hashem says, let the water mitachat hashamayim, under the shamayim, el makom echad, go to one makom, one place, v'tera'eh hayabasha, that we can see yabasha, land, and it was so. Vaikra Elohim layabasha eretz, and Hashem calls this yabasha, right, yavesh, dry, eretz, ulemikveh hamayim kara yamim, and to gather, and to this mikvah, right, mikvah is a gathering of natural water. Hashem calls yamim, oceans, yam. Vayar Elohim ki tov, and again Hashem sees that it was good. Vayomer Elohim tadshe haaretz deshe esev mazriya zera eitz pri ose pri lemino asher zaro vo al haaretz vayehi chen. Hashem says tadshe haaretz deshe, let the land have grass. Esev Mazriya zera, that it should have seeds. It's pri, fruits from the tree. But pri oseh pri limino, that fruits bearing fruits. Asher zarovo, that the seeds will be inside of it, ala aretz, onto the land. Vayhi chen. So it's not just Hashem created. Hashem created this self-sustaining system, right? It's pri oseh pri. That it feeds itself, that has seeds. Vayehi chen, and it was so. ותוצא הארץ דשא, עשב מזריע, זרע למיניהו, ועץ עושה פרי אשר זרעו בו למיניהו, וירא אלוהים כי טוב. And it happened. So this I would ask, how come the Torah has to say it twice? Maybe we can have a look at Rashi in a minute. I'm sure he comments. Anytime that there's this type of repetition, it's always a flag. Vayihi erev vayivoker yom shlishi. It was night and day again, yom shlishi. Shaya, do me a favor, go to the dining room table and see if I have a Chumash Bereisheet there, and can you come downstairs with it? Thanks. Vayomer Elohim yehi meorot berakia hashamayim lehavdil ben hayom uben halayla. God says, let the lights in the rakia of shamayim, in the space of the sky, lehavdil ben hayom uben halayla, make a separation between day and night. Vehayu leotot ulemoadim uleyamim v'shanim. And that shall be otot, signs, moadim. Moed is like set times, right? Chol HaMoed is the set time of Chol within the holiday. Uliyamim, days, and Shanim, years. Thanks, Bubale. V'hayu limorot berakia shamayim lehair al haaretz vayehi chen. And these lights in the sky will illuminate the land. And it was so. I just want to look up Pasuk 12. No, he doesn't really comment on the. I'm shocked. Just to go back to the seeds and trees, Mazria Zera, bringing forth seed, Sheigdal bo zaro, that the seed shall grow within it, Lizroa mimenu b'makom acher, to go plant it in a different place. Eitz pri, trees that have fruit. Shehei tam ha'etz, that has the flavor of the tree. Ketama pri, shall be like the flavor of the fruit. So this is why it's twice, because what happened the first time is Shehei Tama'etz, that the Eitz Pri, Shehei Tama'etz, the trees of the fruit that have the flavor of the tree, Ketama Pri, shall be like the flavor of the fruit. V'hi lo astachen, but the earth didn't do that. Ela, v'totzea aretz etz ose pri. But what happened was, the earth came out with trees yielding fruit. But lo ha'etz pri, but the tree itself was not fruit. Lefichach shnitkalel adam al avono nifkeda gam hi al avona v'nitkalela. But when Adam was cursed for his sin, the earth was also taken into account, al avona, for its sin, and it was cursed. Well, maybe it'll expand. So apparently the trees didn't do what Hashem thought the first time. It sounds like Hashem wanted, or what Rashi says Hashem wanted to have trees, that the tree itself is a fruit, but the trees came out and they bore fruit. So perhaps one is the tree that bears fruit, and the other is the tree that it itself is fruit. Vayas 16. Vayas Elohim et shnei hamerot hagdolim. Hashem makes two great lights. Et hamaor hagadol lememshelet hayom. The greater of the lights, lememshelet hayom, to rule the day. Ve'et hamaor hakaton lememshelet halayla. And the smaller of the lights to rule the night, ve'et hakochavim, and the stars. So we're obviously talking about the sun and the moon, which is interesting because it's only one, because we know that there's only one source of light, but the moon reflects the light of the sun. Vayiten otam Elohim berikia shamayim leha'ir al haaretz, and God gives them the expanse of the sky to illuminate the land. V'limshol bayom u'valayla u'leavdil bein ha'or u'bein ha'choshech, to rule the day and the night, and to make a separation between the light and the darkness. Vayar Elohim kitov, and God sees that it was good. Vayerev vayivoker yom revi'i, and there was again Erev and again Voker, and Yom Revi'i, a fourth day. Vayomer Elohim yishritzu hamayim sheretz nefesh chaya. God says the waters shall have living creatures. Sheretz are kind of known as like creepy crawlers, maybe. Nefesh chaya, but souls of life. Ve'of ye'ofef al haaretz, and birds that can fly above the earth, al pnei rakia hashamayim, on the face, so literally like through the rakia of the heavens. Vayivra Elohim et yep.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So on the fourth day, we got the sun and the moon. So we didn't have day and night until the fourth day, right?
Yep.
So how is that on the first day? We talk about Vayi Erev Vayi Boker.
It just wasn't called day and night, I don't think. It was called Erev and Boker.
But that's the same phrase that's used for the fourth day.
It's
and
not
the
Yom.
fifth day.
Right.
But it didn't exist until the fourth day. The distinction between day and night.
But I think
Follow
on
what
the
I'm
fourth
saying.
day it's called Yom Valayla. Shaya, you have something to say?
He's muted.
What are creepy crawlers?
What are creepy crawlers?
Yes.
Those are things
But
that,
we're coming to them.
yeah. It's called Taninim in Hebrew. You can ask your Hebrew teacher tomorrow. I think on the fourth day it says Yom Valayla, though, as opposed to Erev and Boker.
But at the
Tomorrow
end,
I don't have school.
Okay.
number 19 says, Vayi Erev Vayi Boker Yom Revi'i. And
Right. But
sentence
this idea,
5 also says, Vayi Erev Vayi Boker Yom Echad.
correct. But what I'm seeing, the difference is that on day 4, it's Yom and Laila. It was this idea that things got separated into what
Right.
are now being called Yom and what are now being called Laila. Oh, I see David has his hand up.
You're muted, David.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we have anything. Like, as I'm reading this, you have water and land, 2 great lights, fruit with seeds, great sea monsters. I'm trying to think who wrote this story, because there was no we. Like, there's this story. It's as if somebody made, like, it just seems like it's made up.
Right.
Like they're describing all the things that are in the world before, I guess, you have man and woman. Like, is there any commentary in terms of how this story came about?
I mean, I would imagine it gets so. Yeah, so for sure the answer is yes. There's tons of commentary, but if we look at the actual Torah, when was the Torah physically brought into the world? When?
Sinai.
Mount Sinai. Exactly.
But that was long time. That's a long
That's
time
a long
later.
time after, yeah. But if we're talking about when was this actually brought into the world as a scroll or as a physical entity, it's not for several thousand years.
Well, that's why the scientists maybe have other theories that may be a lot easier to understand.
But it's not.
But I think
But
this
it's
sets
not
the tone.
contradictory. But it's not contradictory, and that's my point.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, this is so vague. I mean, this is so vague that it's not contradictory, unless science tells us that living things came before
They don't. I don't think
light.
so.
You know,
I don't think so.
I mean, I think even science follows that that the first life forms were amphibious. I think I am the furthest thing from a scientist, but if you look at the sort of order of things, I think it flows with science. You know, this whole idea of the Big Bang, right? To me, falls in line with the Torah. Vayomer Elohim. What would that have sounded? What God speaking could be called by scientists the Big Bang. You know?
Pretty sure it's called.
What, Shia?
I'm pretty sure it's called God.
On what? Okay, Shia, I think it's time for bed, maybe.
No.
Anyways, to answer David's question, we believe that the Torah was written and dictated to Moses, who brought it down from Mount Sinai. And until then, we think that people like, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were sort of taught the Torah, but it certainly didn't physically exist until God tells Moses what to write.
What was brought down from Sinai were the commandments.
The commandments were brought, but we also believe that the entire Torah was written then, and the entire oral Torah was also dictated then, and along with the 10 Commandments were the actual Torah scrolls that also went into Kodesh Kodashim, and the oral Torah was then transmitted orally. It says in the Mishnah, it says Moshe gives it to Yoshua, Yoshua gives it to Zkenim, Zkenim to Levi'im, and Levi'im to Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, who then codify it into the Mishnah by the group of rabbis that are called Tanaim, and into the Gemara, which are the group of rabbis called the Amoraim. We're talking about 2,000 years ago. That's looking at the Torah like a history textbook, though. Any other comments? I mean, there's also no answers. There's no answer that's going to satiate any of these questions. That's for sure. Which is also the beauty of Torah, is that you just keep on asking and learning and discovering. Anyways, let's do a bit more. Where are we? Taninim, Shaya's creepy crawlers, and Nefesh Chaya. So we're talking about amphibious life. Haromeset asher shartu amayim leminehem ve'et kol of kanaf lemineu vayar Elohim kitov, and also winged birds, and God sees that it's good. Vayevarech otam, powerful pasuk we have here. God blesses them. Lemor, and says, Pu urvu umilu et hamayim bayamim. Pu urvu, the same blessing that he gives soon to man. Procreate. Umilu, and fill the waters in the oceans. V'ha'of yirev ba'aretz, and let the birds multiply on land. Vayhi voker yom chamishi, until I just saw this pasuk, I completely forgot Hashem blesses the animals. Vayomer Elohim totzei haaretz nefesh chaya lemina behema varemes v'chayto eretz lemina vayichen. Hashem keeps on speaking. Let the earth bring forth living creatures, cattle. Again, remes is also bugs. V'chayto eretz lemina, and all types of living species. Vayichen, and it was so. Vayas Elohim et chayat haaretz lemina, and Hashem makes all different types of living species on the land. Veta behema lemina, and all types of animals. Ve'et kol remes hadama, all kinds of insects, bugs, things that crawl, lemineu, each to their kind. Vayar Elohim kitov, and God sees that it's good. Shaya, question?
Why is the world created?
Why was the world created?
Yeah.
So that we could teach Torah to our sons.
But that doesn't make sense, because why is the world created? It's not that.
Maybe we'll answer that question soon, because now we're learning about creation. So far we see, why was the world...
But if the world's already created, you can't go back.
True, you definitely can't go back. But so far we're seeing that the world was created for us, for nefesh chaya, for living things. It was created for us. Hashem blesses the animals, soon to bless mankind.
Why does he bless us?
Because he wants us to have children, but we're not there yet. So let's see. Vayomer Elohim, here we go. Naseh Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmutenu. Hashem says, let us make man, Adam b'tzalmeinu, man in our image, kidmutenu, after that look like us. Vayirdu bidgat hayam uve'of hashamayim. They're going to rule over the fish of the oceans and the birds of the sky, uva behema uvechol haaretz, and the animals and all of the land, uvechol haremes haromes al haaretz, and all the bugs, insects, things that crawl all over the land. Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam b'tzalmo. God created man in his image. This is a very famous pasuk, very interesting. B'tselem Elohim bara'oto. In the image of God was he created. Zachar u'nekeva bara'otam. male and female, he created them. Vayevarech otam is probably worth opening up Rashi here in a second. Vayevarech otam Elohim vayomer lahem. God blesses them and says to them, vayomer lahem Elohim, and God says to them, Pru urvu umilu et haaretz v'chivshuha. Pru, right, from fruit, be fruitful and multiply. Umilu et haaretz, and fill the land v'chivshuha, and conquer it. Uredu bidgat hayam, and rule over the fish in the seas. Uve'of hashamayim, the birds in the sky. Uve'chol chaya haromeset al haaretz, and all living things that roam, that crawl on the earth. Yeah, David. Oh, don't hear you.
Neat.
There we go.
I'm reading the English in number 26, where God says, "Let us make man."
Yeah,
Who's us?
that's a very good question. I mean, there's some really far out stories about Bereisheet, including things that we even touched upon when we were learning in Devarim about angels that fell from God, that fell from the skies. This is worth looking at Rashi. 26. Okay, so Rashi comments, Naseh Adam, Afal pi shelo siyuhu bitzirato v'yesh makom laminim. Okay, even though the angels didn't assist bitzirato in the creation of man, v'yesh makom laminim lirdot lo limna hakatuv. There is room for heretics to claim that they're supreme by saying that the Torah itself indicates that many gods participated in the creation of man. Lo nimna hakatuv melamed derech eretz umidat anava. The verse did not refrain from teaching us proper conduct and the trait of humility. Sheyehe hagadol nimlach v'notel reshut min hakatan. I'm not really understanding Rashi. It sounds like Rashi says that don't think that angels helped in creating, which is sort of where I went right away, that angels were, somehow consulted. But Hashem is trying to teach us humility here by almost taking that third person as a sign of humility, that it's not always I. But if you look at the next phrase, Rashi says, Imatzmo. It is, but the next phrase, Vayivra et Adam, and he created man. So don't think that it was anyone else but Hashem. And it seems Rashi says that it was to teach us humility. And I think it's a weak answer. Is your hand still up from before, or something else?
I was just reading the next sentence. So the one sentence says, "Let us make man in our image," and then the next sentence, I guess, like Rashi said, "And God created man." So I think it's an interesting distinction between the first sentence where he's saying, let us make. It seems like it's collaborative. I don't know who the us are, but then it was actually God that did it.
Right. So Rashi's saying that it wasn't in fact collaborative, that Hashem makes it sound collaborative to teach us humility, and that it's not always I, and that it's a lesson, unless I'm not understanding. I think this thing also has Rashi. 1 second.
It's also, there's a reference to the same kind of thing happening later on in chapter 11, where God says, let us do something. Chapter 11, line 7, when there was a question of confusing the languages of all the people, it's let us again. So it's the same use of us, not singular.
Right.
And it's a question of His Majesty.
So here's the Rashi. Right? So it's na'aseh adam. That's the question. Why does it say we will make men? The meekness of the Holy One, blessed be He. The rabbis learn from. So right. So he's saying, right, anava, the humility of Hashem is learned from here. Lefi she'adam hu b'dmut hamalachim v'yitkanu bo, because man is in the image of the angels and will have jealousy. What does the English say here?
Yeah,
and they might envy him. Therefore, it says that he took counsel with them. He took counsel with them. And when he judges the kings, he likewise consults. For thus we find in the case of Achab. All right, Achab, yeah. I saw Lord sitting on his throne. So there's another story of when he consults.
Answer my question.
The answer is simple. The world was created for human beings.
Yeah.
That's the answer to your question, really. Yeah, Shaya.
Although they did not assist him in forming the man,
yeah.
And although this use of the plural may give the heretics an occasion to rebel, proper conduct and the virtue of humbleness. So this was the Rashi that I was reading. What's Yet the verse is not requiring teaching proper conduct and virtue of humbleness, namely that the greater should consult and take permission from the smaller. For had it been written, "I shall make man," we could not then have learned that he spoke. Okay, so he did. So it seems that Rashi says that he did speak to his council of heavenly, beings. As refutation of the heretics. Okay, but to refute the heretics, right after it says Hashem creates men.
Right.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice what was in. Oh,
Shaya,
Shaya, I didn't see your chat your chats to me. Shaya, Hashem creates the world so that we could bring holiness into this world, right? Which is why Hashem blesses right after He creates life in the waters, right? He says, "Vayavarech otam." He blesses them. Right after He creates man, "Vayavarech otam." Right after the creation, we see these ideas of making brachas, right? So that's why there's so many brachas for us to make. You have to make at least 100 a day, okay? But that is why Hashem created the world, so that we can bring, not Hashem, we can bring holiness into this world, okay?
how was Hashem created?
How was Hashem created? That's beyond.
That's not it.
Maybe Max has an answer for that one, Shaya, but I certainly don't. I think Hashem was not. Hashem always was there. I don't know. Ask your Hebrew teacher tomorrow. All right, back to the...
I don't have school tomorrow.
Stop yelling. You're giving me a headache. That was very loud. You'll ask her on Monday. Okay, let's at least get to Shabbat.
It's Shabbat tomorrow, so we're at Shabbat. Yay.
Yeah, perfect, but we're about to... Where are we? Okay. Right, Hashem creates man, male and female. Vayevarech otam, he blesses Elohim. Vayomer lahem Elohim, and Hashem says, be fruitful and multiply, fill the land. V'chivshuha, rule over the fish and the birds and the animals. Vayomer Elohim, hine natati lachem et kol esev zorei zera asher al pnei chol haaretz. I gave you everything. I gave you all the eseb, all the greenery, all the things that have seeds that are all over the land, all the trees that bear fruits and seeds. This shall be for you to eat. Right? Vegetarians love this one.
Okay.
ולכל חיית הארץ ולכל עוף השמיים ולכל רומס על הארץ אשר בו נפש חיה את כל ירק עשב לאוכלה. And to all the animals and the birds and to everything on the earth I give yerek esev, the greenery of the esev to eat. Vayehi chen. And it was so. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa. Hashem sees all that was done. V'hinei tov me'od. And it was very good. Vayhi erev vayivoker yom hashishi. And this was the 6th day. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'aretz. This should be familiar. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'aretz ve'chol tzva'am. And vayechulu, they were complete. Hashamayim, the heavens and the earth, chol tzva'am, and all the celestial things. Vayechal Elohim b'yom hashvi melachto asher asa, and Hashem finishes on the 7th day the work that he was doing. Vayishbot, one of the hardest words that I feel cannot be Vayishbot b'yom hashvi'i. What does the word Shabbat mean? I don't know. Vayishbot, he Shabbated b'yom hashvi'i, on the 7th day. Mikol melachto asher asa. He stopped. He rested. Right, lashevet is to sit. Mikol melachto asher asa, from all his work. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikedash. He blesses the day. First time that that time was blessed. Before it's things, it's living things. Hashem blesses Yom HaShvi'i, the day itself. Vayikadesh oto, and sanctifies it. Kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot, because he shavat, he ceased, he stopped, mikol melachto, from all the work, asher bara Elohim la'asot, the work of creation. David, you can just jump in. We're being very polite here with our hands. I can't hear you.
I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, okay. So Hashem speaks the world into creation. We could probably read this again and again and see new things every time. People study these texts for a lifetime, and we will never fully understand it. But there we have it. The world is created, and the things that are imbued with holiness were living things and Shabbat. Any statements, questions?
When is it?
Shia, want to practice
When is
Kiddush?
And what?
What did you ask?
When is this ending?
Right now. How about let's hear
In
you say Kiddush. Bayechulu. It's right here. Right here. No? And he's out.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. The second that I put him on the spot, he's out.
Right. All right.
All right, friends.
Thank you.
A little dusting of Torah and Bereisheet for this week's parsha.
Yeah.
Certainly, there's a lot to reread, and lots of stories about. You'll notice further on, Hashem creates woman again. A lot of stories surrounding that. A lot of stories surrounding angels. When in fact were they created? We think on day 2, but it's never really mentioned. All of a sudden, angels seem to appear, right? Like in the words "Naseh Adam." A lot of interesting things happen in this week's parsha. So I certainly urge everyone to keep on probing. And, we could probe together in Shul Shabbat morning, where we're here the entire parsha, 9 a.m. If not, 7:30 tomorrow and 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. All right. Laila Tov, guys.